do not choose, especially if you're a polyglot, if you're an aspiring polyglot, you have multiple languages on your list. Do not choose more than 3 languages to focus on at a time. Now, you're going to hear people say only focus on one language at a time. And there are pros and cons to each. Quarterly planning. What is it? Why is it useful and helpful? And how to actually do it in your own language studies. Now, if you've never heard of quarterly planning before, I'm going to break down exactly what it is, how it can help you learn multiple languages, because you know this channel is all about polyglot learning and mastering multiple languages. So you can go from frustrated to fluent. And then I'm going to show you exactly how I do it for my own language studies by walking you through my exact quarterly planning right now at the time of this recording. This is the exact same process that I teach all of the people inside of Fluency Mastery Lab. So you're getting a sneak peek into the process and also a sneak peek or a little preview into my exact language learning process. So I hope that you enjoy. I hope you find tons of value from it, and I am not going to waste any more of your time. Let's dive into it. Okay, so when it comes to the quarterly planning, I'm actually pulling it up right now on Notion so I can just walk you through the step-by-step process. Here are the things that I want you to start off with. There are 3 parts to a quarterly plan, and inside of Fluency Mastery Lab, I walk through all 3 parts in depth, but I'm going to give you a quick version of it. The first part is the skill check. The second part is the progress reflection or the study audit, and the third part is the actual planning. You want to gather as much data before you actually start the planning. That's the goal of this 3-part process. Let's just dive into the skill check first, and I'm going to walk you through how that goes. When you are doing the skill check, you want to look at the following areas for each language that you're learning. You want to look at vocabulary, grammar, speaking, writing, listening, reading, pronunciation, consistency, motivation, and level of confidence. Now, I usually recommend rating these on a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 would be just starting, just getting started. 2 is getting better. A 3 is good. A 4 is confidence, like you have some sort of confidence in this area. And then a 5 is proficient. You can do as many stars as you want. But if you want to stick to the way that I recommend, 1 to 5 stars, and you just give it that rating. So again, all of the skills, speaking, listening, reading, writing, but also vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation. Now, if this is a language that you don't actually talk out loud, like American Sign Language, but it still has a flow and a nuance to it. Pronunciation is going to be a little bit different than if it were like English or Spanish or Norwegian, whatever language it might be. And so you want to use your best judgment on which of these actually make the most sense for you to look at for your skill check. Okay. And now we're diving into the study audit. Now, I actually have a video where I go over a study audit, and I'm going to just direct you there because I break it down even more in depth. But the overview of it is you start off with an overview. What are all the things that you did in your language studies? Then you talk about the wins and the highlights. What went well in your language studies? Big wins, small wins. You want to write all those things down. Then you want to dive into the setbacks, so the things that did not go well, the failures you experienced, the mistakes that you made. Be really honest with yourself. Write those down. And then you want to go into the milestones that you've reached. Now, milestones is specifically talking about the goals that you've set for yourself the past 90 days. Which of them did you achieve? And yes, you can adjust them here. The milestone that I set was to read this entire book in Spanish. Did I read the whole book? No. But I read half of it. And so the milestone that you reached is you read half of the book in Spanish. That should be celebrated. Write it down. And then the overall motivation, overall consistency. Now, if you already did the 5-star rating and the skill check for your consistency and motivation, you don't have to do it here, but this is also a great place to write down some things that impacted your motivation, positive or negative, and some things that impacted your consistency, again, positive or negative. Now, I know I went through this very fast because I have a whole video on it. And again, you can check it out right here. I'm going to put it, if not here, in the description. Now we're diving into the reflection. Now, the reflection for your language studies is quite more in depth because what I'm asking you to do is literally take a look at each individual language. The audit was an overview, was like a little bit of everything. You could dive into specific languages. The reflection is very, very in depth because you're taking each language and you're saying, what was the outcome that I was hoping to achieve? So the milestone or the goal that you set for the past 30 to 90 days, in this case, 90 days. And then you're saying, what challenges did I face while I was working towards this? Big or small challenges? What excuses did I make when trying to achieve this thing in my language studies? Write them down and be honest. What things did you tell yourself? You're like, oh man, well, I didn't do this today because of XYZ. Write it down. If there was a reason why you didn't do what you said you were going to do, write it down. Then what are the fears that are coming up for you? The things that you're worried about, you're concerned about. You're like, what if I don't achieve this? What if I'm not able to do this? Or what if it doesn't actually work out? Write all those fears down. Put them on paper so that you can acknowledge them. It is important to do that in this process. This is a really good way to see, do I still have the same fears coming up? That's the sign that you might not be addressing them. You might not be supporting yourself so you don't have those fears, or you might be ignoring those fears. And then if it's a new one each time, you're like, okay, we got a new challenge to face. And do I need support with this? Do I need a community? Do I need resources? Do I need answers? So many different ways that you can solve this and overcome the fear, but write it down first. Then we're thinking about the vision. What is your vision for your language studies? What is the big picture that you're trying to achieve, aka your guiding principles or your North Star for learning this specific language? Why are you doing this in the first place? Many people start off with, it sounds cool, or, I was just curious about it. And that's a great start, but that is not strong enough to keep you on the journey for learning the language long term. You want to make that shift into something bigger and beyond it sounds cool. Because when it stops sounding cool because you understand it, or it stops feeling interesting because you're facing challenges, what is going to keep you here? What is going to keep you on this path of doing it? You need something a little bit stronger than that, in addition to the coolness of it or whatever it might be for you. And then we want to think about the action plan. Now that you have all this information, what are you going to do about it? And I recommend prioritizing action over goals. Yes, you can set goals, but one of the things that I say to my students and clients, especially in Fluency Mastery Lab, is that you can learn a language and never set a goal. Like, you might just do a search here on YouTube and find so many language learners around the same time period who were like, I no longer set goals in my language studies. No shade at all, because the truth is that you can learn a language and never set a goal, but you can't learn languages without habit, the actions that you're taking. And so that's what you want to put as your priority. What are the actions you're going to do? Like speaking more Spanish around the house, reading more Japanese, writing your notes in Korean. What are the things that you're going to be doing on a more regular basis to help you now and in the future get closer to that goal or get closer to your next goal? And then finally, we have the actual planning, the quarterly planning. And now here's what I want you to remember. Do not choose, especially if you're a polyglot, if you're an aspiring polyglot, you have multiple languages on your list. Do not choose more than 3 languages to focus on at a time. Now, you're going to hear people say, only focus on 1 language at a time. And there are pros and cons to each, but I think the reason why so many people stray away from learning multiple languages at the same time is because they don't either know the challenges that they're going to face, or they're not comfortable facing those specific challenges, or they don't know how to overcome them. Or the alternate is that they just really prefer to focus on one thing at a time. It is okay to not be a multitasker, but if you're someone who wants to study multiple at the same time, it is doable, and you just have to recognize, hey, here are some caveats, here are some pitfalls, some challenges that you're going to face when you're studying multiple at the same time. So no more than 3 as your focus, and all the other languages become your maintenance languages, which means that you're not actively studying them. They will go on your level of best. So good, better, best are the expectations that I recommend all of my students and clients set. So if you have more time, you have more energy, then you're going to focus on those other languages. Otherwise, you're going to prioritize the 3 that are your focus languages. And you want to start off with the quarterly plan. So what are the milestones that you're going to achieve? 3 milestones per language for this quarter. Quarter 3 is July, August, September. So you should have 3 milestones because they're going to represent each of the months of this quarter. So milestone 1 is July, milestone 2 is August, milestone 3 is September, just at the time of me recording this. But really, whenever you're starting your quarterly plans, 3 milestones for 3 months for the quarter. And it doesn't even have to be calendar quarter. So let's say you are starting your plans in February, you're starting your plans in August. It is okay to start then. You're just going to create your quarterly plans from this moment and set your 3 milestones for that. It is okay. It's okay. Don't make this the excuse to not plan and say, oh, I'm just going to wait until the new quarter starts. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's okay to start from where you are right now. So set those milestones and then think about the strategy. How are you going to achieve that milestone? What are the things you're going to do? Reading XYZ, using this textbook, completing this course. What are the things you're actively going to do? And then the action steps. How are you actually going to get that done? So if you said the strategy is using the textbook to help you improve your vocabulary and grammar, what are you actually going to do? Because completing a textbook is not specific enough. But it's I'm going to sit down and I'm going to complete 1 or 2 practice activities. I'm going to read the text in the beginning. I'm going to listen to the audio that comes along with it. What are the possible activities that you can do in the study session? Hopefully, You're not trying to do all of them unless you have the time and energy to do so. But what's the bare minimum that you want to get done? And you only know that when you list out all of these action steps. And then you want to think about additional notes that you have, any things that you want to keep in mind, any things that you want to be aware of. You want to write those down for the quarter. And then you break it down. Now, if it is overwhelming, you're like, Bront'e, I'm not a planner. You are a planner, clearly. I am not. Then you just want to do those 3 milestones for the 3 months and then just focus on milestone number 1. You can ignore the other 2 for now because you're only getting into milestone number 1, which is the next month that's coming up for you. And then you want to break down what will your next month look like with this milestone. In order to achieve that milestone, what are the things you're going to do? What is your focus? What are the strategies you're going to use on this monthly basis? What are the action steps you're going to take on this monthly basis? And then you break that down by week. And I recommend week. After that, if you want to do daily, you can. I don't, because I am not consistent on a day-to-day, every single day basis. But by weeks, I can do that. And so it's really up to you. And usually when I'm in a coaching conversation, I say try out daily just to see how it goes and give it like a week or 2 before you make any decisions otherwise. So I'm going to recommend the same thing for you as well. If you want a more in-depth look at this process, the Notion sheet that I use, the step-by-step process, it is probably an hour-long session for how I do this and how I walk people through this. Then that is all inside of Fluency Mastery Lab, because that's what we do over there. We go through the quarterly planning, and I'm not just giving the quarterly planning and saying, have at it, people, go do it. But it's a process that I support people with along the way, in addition to every other thing that is so amazing inside of the community space. So at the beginning of each quarter, we work together to review, to reflect, do the skill check, do the audit, do the progress reflection, and then start to create our plans for our language studies. And so if you want in on that, you definitely want to check out Fluency Mastery Lab. But I hope that you found this video helpful. If you need any more tips or strategies on your language studies, mastering multiple languages, going from frustrated to fluent in multiple languages, please let me know. And also let me know in the comments, are you going to plan out your quarters? And if so, set the date. Tell me the date in the comment. Don't just say, yes, I'm going to do it, but say, I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it on Thursday. Give me the exact date that you are going to do it, and I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to check in with you. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time in my next video. Bye, everybody.